trying to forget for the next few days. I try to forget about the newspaper article, but I can't. Even though I know the truth about what happened, I can't stop nagging mom with 1,000 questions. What did Susan James look like? Where did we stay on the vineyard? Eventually, my mother puts a halt to my interrogation and tells me the subject is now closed. A few years ago, when the commercial building next door went up for sale, my mom's bought it, and my mom moved her practice there. She's been a veterinarian for more than 12 years. She also has a boarding business she calls Pet Camp and a grooming service she calls Pet Spa, which makes me think of dogs getting massages and lying around with cucumbers on their eyes. In reality, it's more like picking off ticks and getting the gunk out of their ears. I'm so glad to be on vacation. I help mom tack new photos onto the huge collage in her waiting room when people first bring their animals to her. She always takes a picture of them with their dogs, cats, lizards, ferrets, hamsters, or birds. Then places them in her collage that now takes up almost the entire wall. I saw Maria Rodriguez at the store the other day, she says. Who? Carly's mom. We talked about you two getting together this summer. First of all, I'm too old for you to be setting up play dates. Second of all, she's a brown nosing goody two shoes who I despise. Oh, come on. She can't be that bad. Mom tacks a photo of an elderly man with a cockatoo on his shoulder to the wall. Trust me, she is. Then when she's finished, my mother takes a novel from her purse, kicks off her shoes, and settles into one of the comfy waiting room chairs. I don't buy it. If you're doing this as an example of how much fun reading is, it's not working. She closes the book and keeps surfing around the page. Believe it or not, Derek, not everything has to do with you. I have a free hour and just want to relax. Do you mind? She waves me off and goes back to her book. I leave her in the waiting room and visit the animals in the kennel. A basset hound named Lionel, who's here while his owners are on vacation, and two gray cats I've never seen before. I give Lionel a treat from the canister on the counter, then sneak a peek at my mom, who's still reading, even though she doesn't know I'm watching. She has on the same content face that Carly had at Jamie's store, and I wonder, these books make only girls happy. Then I remember my dad and Uncle Bob both like to read, and I start to wonder what's wrong with me. Maybe it's like blue eyes and blonde hair. There's a reading gene some people get or don't get at birth. When my mother turns the page, she spots me near the door. It's the perfect time to start one of those books on your list. No thanks. I'll get us some cookies. No thanks. I'll help you with the words you don't know. No thanks. 2 chocolate chips per page. She pats the seat next to her. An invitation for me to sit down. Let me see the illustrations you did of your vocabulary words so far. I run back to the house and get my sketchbook, sit down next to her, and show her my drawings. She smiles. Some of these remind me of your father's. Did you know he used to get yelled at when he was young for drawing all over his homework? I shake my head. One of his teachers called his drawings messy doodles and a waste of time. I bet she'd be surprised to find how he gets paid to do them now. This gives me an idea, and I draw a picture of Dad as a kid using a giant pencil as a battering ram, knocking down the school's exit door. I choose the colors carefully, the way I always do. When I finish, Mom asks if she can have it. I say yes, and she tacks it up to the wall next to the main desk. I spend the rest of the afternoon checking the details on my illustrations. I may not make my bed, pick up my clothes, put away my DVDs, or wipe the puddles of water off the floor after I take a bath, but I'm never messy with my drawings. A new friend. One of my mom's assistant vets is on vacation, so she lets me come to work with her again. Usually, she has a few cats and dogs in the boarding cages, but this time when I got into the back room, I'm surprised to find a monkey. His name is Pedro. He is a capuchin who's been trained to work with people in wheelchairs. Pedro lives with a good friend of mine who just moved to Venice Beach. He's wearing a diaper so he doesn't make a mess. What does he do around the house? All kinds of things. Capuchins start training when they're young. They make very nice companions. Suddenly, a boring day of tagging along with my mother becomes a day full of possibility and adventure. But Mom spoiled his fun antenna pop up. Even though Pedro is trained, monkeys can still bite. I don't want you getting any ideas. She explains that she usually doesn't treat monkeys, but because she had a lot of training with exotic pets in vet school, she's able to help out her friend. Then she steers me away from the capuchin and asks me to trim the Cocker Spaniel's nails. I've been doing this for a while, so I know how to fasten the dog's leash to the table and get him in position so he doesn't move around. I even know how far down to trim so I don't cut inside the nail where it could hurt. But as I'm grooming the spaniel, all I can think about is Pedro. In my imagination, my mother goes out to lunch and I let the monkey out of his cage, call Matt, and we watch action movies while Pedro does our chores. When he's finished, he sits between us on the couch and goes crazy during the explosion scenes. We even skateboard down the street with Pedro, alternating between our two boards. In reality, my morning is much less exciting. I cut the dog's toenails while Pedro scratches himself. After sweeping up hair and putting away the heartworm pills, I decide Pedro and I both need some fresh air. While my mother is in one of the rooms tending to a cat that swallowed her owner's bracelet, I undo the latch on Pedro's cage and slip him onto my shoulder. He's surprisingly light and sits quietly on my head while I sneak out the back to our house next door. My car is gone, so Pedro and I have the place to ourselves. I break up a candy bar into a bowl to test Pedro's microwave skills so we can dip strawberries into the melted chocolate. Instead, he eats the chocolate without even trying to use the microwave. I wonder if the woman in Venice Beach lied to my mother when she said Pedro helps around the house. I decide what Pedro needs is fun, not work. So I find my old cowboy outfit in the basement. I poke another hole in the holster strap, then fasten it around Pedro's waist. He takes the cowboy hat off the counter and puts it on as if he's just been waiting for this. He must watch a lot of westerns with his owner because Pedro takes the toy guns from the and holsters and wields them like he's tearing up an old saloon. Bodie wanders in from the doggy door, then backs like a lunatic when he says sees Pedro. Calm down, I say. You two are going to be great friends. I pick up Pedro and place him on Bodie as if he's a horse. Either he wants Pedro off his back or he's willing to play along, because Bodie takes off through the house with Pedro holding on to his collar for dear life. Bodie is barking and Pedro screeching. So I start screaming too and grab the gun that Pedro dropped. The three of us race through the house when I suddenly see my mother standing in the doorway. The expression on her face is scarier than an actress in one of Dad's horror movies. When Mom grabs Bodie by the collar, Pedro jumps up her arm and sits on her shoulder. She hands Bodie a treat from the pocket of her lab coat, then turns to me. I'm signing you up for summer camp. No, we decided I would stay home and play this summer. She points around the living room to the tipped chair and my dad's portfolio all over the floor. If kidnapping a monkey and running wild through the house is your idea of play, we need to redefine the term. I still would rather be home, but I suppose there are worse things than doing sports all summer. I tell her I'll look through some camp websites and find a good one tonight. She shakes her head. Skateboard camp? I ask. Not this time. Rock climbing camp? No. Karate camp? No again. I suddenly fear for my life. You have too much time on your hands, she says. You're going to learning camp. No. Yes, there are 6 weeks left of vacation. Think of all the things you can accomplish. You'll start school in September ahead of the game. But what about lying on the grass and staring at clouds and playing kickball and making forts and watching the Three Stooges and eating popsicles? And enough. You're not 5 years old anymore. You need to start getting serious. I'm 12, plus it's summer. No one's supposed to be serious. It almost seems like Pedro knows what's going on because he wags his finger as if he disapproves of my behavior. I was going to shave him with Dad's electric razor, I say, but I didn't. I used good judgment. I don't need to go to learning camp. I don't tell her that the only reason I didn't shave Pedro was because I couldn't find Dad's razor. Bodhi sticks his head between my legs, a move he always makes when he knows I need comfort. My mother brings Pedro back to our office and tells me we'll sign up for learning camp after dinner. Why can't grown-ups just let a kid play with a dog and a monkey in peace?